Singapore's founding father, Kuan filled his memoir with around 36 photos. Images of his family, his trusted colleagues, and moments where he addressed the nation in crucial speeches. But there's one photo that stands out, a photo of an ordinary envelope. Why would a renowned statesman immortalize a simple envelope, covered in hurried scribbles, in his memoir? The answer: it holds the story of one of his greatest negotiation victories, and simultaneously, the seeds of a 35-year disagreement with Malaysia. To understand how this envelope became so unforgettable, let's wind the clock back to 1961. That year, Malayan Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman made a stunning proposal. He suggested that Malaya, Singapore, Brunei, Sabah, and Sarawak merge to form Malaysia. He envisioned Malaysia as a rich country, especially with Singapore as the New York of Malaysia. The Tunku's vision appealed to Lee, as Singapore was struggling economically. Singapore's unemployment rate was 10%. In contrast, places like Sabah and Sarawak faced a shortage of skilled labour and often recruited workers from Hong Kong. Singapore lobbied for Sabah and Sarawak to accept Singaporean workers, but those arguments fell on deaf ears. So a new Malaysian federation was like a lifeline to Lee. It could help solve long-standing unemployment issues and also provide a bigger market for Singapore's goods. Throughout 1962, Lee Kuan Yew eagerly negotiated the terms of Singapore joining Malaysia. But he clashed with the Tunku repeatedly on two key issues. First, how much autonomy would Singapore retain? Second, how much of Singapore's taxes should go to the Federation? The stakes were high, and tensions flared. By mid-June 1963, the Tunku had had enough. He presented what he described as his final terms for Malaysia. The new constitution would create a common market, a huge benefit to Singapore's economy. However, Singapore would need to provide a $50 million gift to fund development in Sabah and Sarawak. Lee rejected this outright, labeling it as an unaffordable entry fee. He also demanded greater control over local issues. He told the Tunku, Singapore has more effective laws against corruption and gangsters, so leave those to us. The arguments were seemingly endless, and everyone's patience was running thin. Would the entire merger deal fall apart and leave Singapore vulnerable to communists? British Colonial Secretary Duncan Sandys stepped in. He summoned both sides for a final round of talks in London. The Tunku, wary of Lee's constant pushback, refused to attend. Instead, he sent his deputy Tun Razak. The Tunku only planned to show up for the final signing. Sandys worked tirelessly to broker a compromise. He met with Razak, then separately with Lee, housing them in different hotels to keep tensions in check. He felt that he needed to narrow the gap between both sides before a joint meeting could be productive. Only after long discussions did he meet with both Razak and Lee. Lee invested a few $100s in that joint meeting, not for bribes, but for sandwiches. Make sure there's always sandwiches for me, he told his wife. If not, I won't have enough energy for this marathon negotiation. As dawn approached, the hotel ran out of sandwiches. But Lee got a better deal. The $50 million gift was replaced by a $150 million loan, with $100 million interest-free for 5 years. In today's money, the loan was nearly $1 billion. Brunei Sultan also flew to London and met with Sandys. However, the Sultan was dissatisfied with things like oil revenue arrangements. He ultimately declined to join Malaysia. The Sultan stayed under British rule until 1984, which he thought was a better deal. On July 6, the Tunku arrived in London, ready to sign the Malaysia Agreement on July 8. But little did he know, Lee Kuan Yew wasn't done negotiating. Lee said, "I need some additional assurances before I'm sure I want to join Malaysia." And in a flurry of last-minute talks, Lee secured much of what he wanted. Malaysian projects funded by Singapore's loans would hire Singapore workers. Also, Singapore would retain the power to fight secret societies. But Lee wasn't satisfied with a verbal promise, as he felt that the Tunku had an elastic memory. So Lee wrote the terms on an envelope and told the Tunku, "Sign here." The Tunku signed it after midnight. It was a harrowing end to 2 years of negotiations. Singapore's national newspaper said that no one would want to repeat this experience. Not even Lee Kuan Yew. But it was equally momentous. The clouds of uncertainty regarding Singapore's future disappeared, and everyone was finally sure Malaysia would exist. So the pen used to sign the agreement was stored at Malaysia's National Museum. But the ink on the paper had barely dried before tensions reignited. Once Singapore joined Malaysia, the Tunku demanded the promised loan. But Singapore said, Sabah and Sarawak haven't agreed to hire Singaporean workers. That's a key condition of the loan. A bitter public argument ensued. Were the disagreements merely about money? No, as the promises on the envelope signaled deeper issues of trust and commitments. Indeed, issues of trust even created a fight over the interest rate. Malaysia felt that its central bank could set a fair interest rate. However, Singapore trusted World Bank arbitration more. As the rift between Singapore and Malaysia grew, one thing was clear. The initial agreements failed to bridge the deep divide in perspective. The quarrel over the loan never truly ended. It contributed to the eventual bitter split between Singapore and Malaysia in 1965. On the day Singapore left, the Tunku spoke at length about the issue. He accused Singapore of holding back development in Sabah and Sarawak. Those states needed money as they were fighting an undeclared war against Indonesia, the Indonesian confrontation. Even decades later, Lee Kuan Yew and the Tunku wrote about the dispute in their memoirs. Lee blamed the Tunku for not honoring a written promise. But the Tunku brushed away Lee's criticisms, saying that he didn't even read the envelope before signing it. He even claimed that it wasn't an important issue, as he didn't want to keep Singapore in Malaysia for long. Did the debate die after both leaders passed? Not completely. Some in Sabah and Sarawak still question if the pledge was fully honored. Sometimes, the smallest details, like a few words hastily scribbled on an envelope, can shape history for years to come. Clarity and commitment in our agreements today can save us from endless disagreements tomorrow. When you negotiate with someone, they may say that they agree, but do they truly see eye to eye with you as well? A written promise may hold people accountable, but emotional alignment ensures that they'll want to honor that promise. Thanks for watching.